I think that that's a big part of the complexity. And here's the difference is that, yes, we are all not exactly our first impression. We all do have a better side when we first meet somebody, usually. Right. And then after getting to know them, there may be some quirks that we don't like. But the extremes are not there with normal people, right? Most people, there's some variation that may look like this, right? With narcissists and borderline personality, the variation is night and day. It's like a 180. It's a complete different person that you're seeing.
Welcome to the That's Where I'm At podcast. I'm Laura, happily divorced after spending years with a narcissist. I believe keeping secrets will make you sick and that they always come to light in the end. As women, we're often told to be quiet, don't share your story, don't talk about the things we go through. It's making women sick, sad, and suicidal. We don't have to be on the other side to share our story. This show is for the women still in the middle of the mess, but showing up bravely as they heal. It's time to share these stories with each other so we can learn, grow, and heal together. I'm Laura, and that's where I'm at.
Hey, it's Laura. If while you're listening today, something hits a little too close to home, if you find yourself thinking, how does she know exactly what I've been through? It's because I've lived it too. I want to remind you that I offer one-on-one coaching for women who are ready to stop questioning their worth, heal from the mind games, and start reclaiming a life they actually want to wake up to. Check the link in the show notes to book a call today. Now here's the episode.
Please take note that this episode may contain subjects that may be triggering to certain listeners. Please take care when listening today. Hi, guys, and welcome back to the That's Where I'm At podcast. Today, I have Dr. Tina. Dr. Tina is a holistic brain health practitioner who uses a combination of neuroscience and medical intuition to help sensitive souls boot the root causes, regardless of relationships, surroundings, or symptoms. Because she felt like she was a magnet to toxic people for most of her life, she had to figure out how to deflect them. She now teaches others to overcome narcissistic abuse and learn to love again. Welcome, Dr. Tina.
Thank you, Laura, for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. Tell me how you got into this line of work. I mean, what does that mean? You were a magnet?
So, I was a holistic brain health practitioner first, but I actually had some housemates that made my life very difficult. And I had a series of housemates that were upending my life and threatening my housing stability. And I realized, you know what, this is enough. And at that point, I was like, I have this history of attracting toxic people. What is up with that? I'd known that for a while, but I just could not figure it out. And when I figured, I was like, I'm going to figure out these people's diagnosis and then figure out best steps for handling them. And so I just started reading about as many books as I could about toxic people. And of course, learned about narcissistic personality disorder. This was way back before it was popular, although I did suspect narcissism, but learned about borderline as well and other sociopathic personality types. It made a huge difference for me. Not just to read about it, but the thing is that you can learn about what to do, but be able to do what you need to do in that moment can be very, very, very hard. And that's why I work with people on a subconscious level to address those subconscious barriers that get in the way.
Yeah, I've learned a lot about myself because learning also, I guess not terminology, but, when I first started healing and I would go into divorce groups, they would say, like, you have to think about what your part was in your marriage. And as I started to understand abuse, I'm like, wait, I didn't have a part as far as someone abusing me, but there are patterns that I had as a person that was attracting them, people-pleasing, and I didn't have boundaries, that's for sure. And so I feel like that was really attractive to a lot of people because, with boundaries, when you start setting them, the people who are the maddest are the ones who benefited from you not having any boundaries. And I had to learn how to do that. What do you think about that?
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. I mean, being boundaried up, having that ability to hold healthy boundaries makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
And I have to say that there were a lot of differences between me and my sister, but my sister did not get treated the same way I did. And she did have healthy boundaries. But there's also this concept of splitting that can happen in families too, where one person is a good person and one person is a bad person. So he actually got the emotional support she needed to be able to love herself enough to stand up for herself, to say, I'm more important than your happiness. Whereas I was like, it wasn't that I believed that their happiness was more important, but it was more like, I'm trying to please you in a very unhealthy way.
Yeah.
By not speaking up and I also had, you know how we have fight, flight, or freeze, right?
Yeah.
I have a freeze response.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really couldn't defend myself because my brain was just like, I was so stressed out by the anger that I was dealing with growing up that I couldn't think straight. And my sister could. Makes all the difference in the world.
It really does. And so is it just coming to that point of we're setting our own boundaries, or really just trying to be brave in being able to say, this is not okay with me? I feel like in society, you know, we're societalized to be like the good girl and be quiet and don't ruffle any feathers. And especially in certain families, I mean, I'm Hispanic. You sure didn't talk back or say what your needs are. No one's allowing you to do that. You know, what do you see in that?
I think being able to set healthy boundaries involves a lot of different things.
Yeah.
One is that you have to love yourself so much that you're just not willing to take crap from people. You're just like, oh, that person is only capable of, you know, or this person isn't treating me nicely. I'm not going to take that. Like their friendship or how much they care about me doesn't matter to me. Like I'm willing to let them go. And it doesn't even matter what position they're in. You just need to stand up for yourself and even quit a job or move out of a house or whatever you need to do to get out of that relationship if the person is toxic, right? And I think healthy people just wouldn't put up with it. They were just like, you know what? I'm entitled to be treated better, being treated better. I'm out of here.
Right.
And so it starts with that self-concept of like, I deserve better and I'm not going to take this.
Right.
I think that another thing that needs to happen is, first of all, I mentioned the fight, flight, or freeze. If you're freezing, you can't think straight in the moment. So that's really key. But the boundaries are also knowing what to say. And then another aspect about it is you have to be, with narcissists, you really got to be calm, cool, and collected, because as soon as, like, if you should fight with them, that can be a problem too, because they know that they're triggering you, and in their evil ways, they just love to do that, right? So you need to be emotionally like, I'm not triggered. You're not going to bother me. I'm just out of here. I'm not going to take it.
Right.
Right. And so getting to that point takes, at least in my world, has taken a lot of release work, releasing that trauma from your past, releasing that inherited trauma, and releasing past life trauma. And that's how clients are able to get to this position of being able to speak directly to the issue and leaving the relationship if they need to. But then some other miraculous things are happening with some other techniques I'm using that are kind of crazy. So happy to share those. But healthy boundaries is so.
Yeah, tell us about those.
Yeah, one of this is a pretty amazing story. I have a client, Betty, who lets me use her name, and she is like the sweetest woman ever. Like you gotta love her. You meet her and she's just as sweet as they get. And one day we had a session and she had a physical issue, and I kept getting, I need to address something else. And I was like, Betty, I'm sorry. I'm getting that there's something really important we need to address. And I figured out it was stress at work. And turns out there's this woman that she just started this new job. And this woman was just constantly bullying her and belittling her and talking and going to the boss and talking badly about her. And this person was known to be a difficult person to work with, typically. And a lot of alarm bells set off for me. And I was like, this sounds like a narcissist. So what I do with clients is I often go to the DSM, and we do what I call an armchair diagnosis. Like we're not officially allowed to, but when it comes to sociopathic personality disorders, they are societal problems. And we need solutions before they ever get to the doctor's office, because they're not going to go, right?
No,
they're not going to go.
They're not.
But they're useful for us.
Yes.
They empower us and help us know how to address the issues, right? So we went through the DSM, and for narcissistic personality disorder, you need 5 out of 7, and she passed that flying colors. So we're like, we're not going to say I mean, I'm saying it publicly, but again,
Yeah.
it's an armchair diagnosis. It's enough to give us information about what to do.
Right.
So with narcissists, I like to say, just be a stone, just try to minimize interaction, let them win to some degree, if as long as they're not going to take power away from you or do something but if they say something and you don't agree with it, acknowledge it and don't carry it on. Right. So
the gray rock method.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
So we worked on the emotions that all of this had caused and released all of that. And then what I did was I have this really cool system it's called Court of Atonement, where I bring the soul of my client and the soul of the bully into a higher power and have things worked out on an astral plane.
Wow.
And it was incredible. The next time we met, like about a week later, she said, everything has changed.
Wow.
And this woman she was like, this woman is now being nice to her. But so she said at one point she sounded like she wanted to criticize Betty or say something negative or mean. And she stopped herself in mid-sentence and didn't keep going.
Wow.
She said she's become a lot more reflective, a lot more respectful. And I was just like, what? And then, and so things just changed drastically. And I was like, okay, let's just see if this keeps going, right? And it did, from the weeks on, as the weeks went on, she didn't have any problems. Like, she was paired up with this woman to work with her exclusively, and she was no longer an issue. And she's continued to work in this job for years now. And the other thing, like weeks later, she gave us a gift for her and her husband.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, oh my goodness, what happened? I don't know what happened. Maybe somehow, did the gods above or whoever it is, the spirit guides, threaten her job for being mean and having to keep getting new partners, or what was it that happened? I don't know what happened, but it was miraculous.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
The thing that I found with the gray rock and then working on ourselves, that these things just don't bother you as much anymore. And yeah, there might have been some energy coming off of Betty that this person just wasn't getting the same vibe from her, that she felt like she could take advantage of her. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm sure that's part of it.
Oh, I mean, that's just so interesting. That's the biggest thing for me, was setting boundaries and then really not letting certain things bother me. And I had to meet with my ex for something, and I totally went gray rock. Like, he was getting upset with me and I was just sitting there going, okay, yes. And then when he's like, are we done? And I said, yes. And he left. And he was so mad because I wasn't reacting in the way that he would have wanted. And that gray rock method is it's really great to use on people who are toxic and maybe are saying things about you, but it's like, you don't have to believe them and you don't have to defend yourself. It's so exhausting. Yeah, you're right that they aren't going to go anywhere near a diagnosis anyway. So it doesn't matter. I have many people who ask me to diagnose their loved one that's being toxic to them. And I always tell them, it doesn't matter. How are you being treated? Right. And that's the bottom line, right? And so I would imagine, as you're working with people, that you're teaching them that the self-love is what's really going to get them to where they need to be in their life. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I do teach them that. But I don't have to spend much time on it. I think they realize that argument pretty quickly. And I do give talks, and when I give a talk on how to get your power back. That's awesome. Where I do help people raise awareness about these toxic personality types. I think it's really important to know the patterns, right? So that they can deflect people earlier. But anyways, you asked, so about loving yourself. Yeah. So I do tell them about it, but it's one thing to know it and it's another thing to feel it, right? Right. And that's where, as a healer, I have super powerful methods, and I'm so glad that I have them. I mean, I was in my late 40s before I discovered them. And it just has it's been a huge change in my life. I mean, I don't think you said this, but I had horrific self-loathing because of the way I was brought up. And, and yeah, I just I was never good enough to my parents or to myself. And so it's made a huge difference in my life.
Especially if we're in a household where maybe, and this happens, that other children or siblings are being treated differently. You can even come up with a sense of self-worth that is like that self-loathing. I mean, I felt that way. I don't know if anybody ever said you'll never amount to anything or whatever, those kinds of words, but the atmosphere was enough that I had really low self-esteem and didn't feel like I could do anything. And I'm in my 50s. You know what I mean? At this point, that's what I've been working on. I've been working on loving myself and who am I? What did little Laura need? You know, I've been doing that inner child work. What did she need? What does that look like for my life moving forward? Because it's not too late to heal that stuff, don't you think?
Never too late. Why not live the life you want, right? And I think the more we do this work, the better the world will be in general. We all need, the more people that are healed, that just bad management, bad democracy that doesn't work comes out of anger.
Yeah.
And comes out of unresolved issues, right? So, I mean, I can think a lot about that sort of in a societal level, or talk a lot about that in a societal level. But yeah, I think everybody, the more inner work you do, the more you're going to impact the world positively. And don't we all want that, right?
I mean, for sure, because I see the ripple effects. I don't know that people realize the ripple effects of when you heal, how you can ripple out to the rest of the world. But if we do look at society or even our circle, when you're around a lot of negativity, it feels like everything is terrible. And
Yeah.
and if you get around those people that are more positive, it feels a little less terrible. I mean, it feels better. And so that was one of the things for me. I noticed that, I don't know if you ever talk about this, when you're doing healing and you'll see that certain people around you no longer want to be around you. It's almost like your friends start changing. People around you like don't want to spend as much time with you. Then of course there's those other people who do come into your life. And so I have noticed that as I was healing, that I didn't have to break up with anybody. You know what I mean? Like certain friends just couldn't handle this healing version without me having to say, I don't go around saying, you should go to therapy. It was
Right.
things like that. I don't know. Have you had people experiencing that, clients experiencing that, or
Definitely. Yeah. People have come to me oftentimes with relationships that aren't working out, right? And there's either one of two things that can happen with these relationships. We release barriers and the relationships can thrive in ways that, like, they live happily ever after. I mean, it's just really quite an amazing shift that happens, you know?
Yeah.
And then sometimes we do that and the person says, oh, this person isn't good for me. And they move on. They finally make that choice to move on. And they gain that awareness, regardless, that they need to love themselves first. And then they can ask themselves the question, is this person good for me? Right.
Right.
So regardless, they're in a better place. But yeah.
That's really good. And really making that declaration, I'm worth more than this, especially when you're being treated poorly. But yeah, it's so interesting to me. I was like, am I never going to have any friends again at the end of this? But my coaches and my therapists have helped me to realize, no, look at who's around you. I'm like, I see them. You know, you have to be aware when you're doing the healing, who's around you and who's not, because those are the right people will be around you. That's for sure.
It's interesting because I know that I spent the first half of my life like under a dark cloud. And the things that it wasn't just people, but it was also the things I was attracted to, right?
Okay.
So one thing I did was I spent a lot of time volunteering with Amnesty International. And with Amnesty, you're hearing a lot of stories of absolute horrific torture, right?
Okay.
And I remember I took a class on the Holocaust, for example, in college. And that's like, pretty damn dark story, right?
Yeah.
And it's not that, it's interesting because I acknowledge all of that as being real, but it's almost like I just don't want to be around it anymore. I don't want to dismiss it. I think it's super important when it comes to clients. I'm very happy to hear their dark stories and be that person for them because I know that I can help them change. I think it's when you hear about these stories and there's nothing that you can do that actually is, or a limited amount of things you can do. Like with Amnesty, there's a very limited amount of things I can do. So at least with the time I have.
Right.
And so I'm noticing that as my energy has lifted, I spend a lot more time, looking for opportunities for awe and joy. because that's where I resonate. And the people that I love being around, I choose are also resonating at a better place.
That's so true.
Let's get real. Gaslighting isn't just a buzzword. It's that sick, spiraling feeling in your gut when they say, "That's not what I said. You always twist things," or "You're too sensitive. I was just joking." Yeah, I can totally relate. I spent 33 years with someone who made me feel like I was the problem every time, no matter what. That's why I wrote You're Not Crazy, Reclaiming Your Sanity and Self-Worth After Narcissistic Abuse. Because you deserve to trust your gut again. You deserve to trust you. And spoiler alert, you were never the problem. Gaslighting is the main tactic of a narcissist. This book won't fix your ex, but it will help you fix your peace. Just check out the link in the show notes to get your copy today. Don't wait to start your healing.
I was saying, I was in a lot of narcissistic abuse awareness groups. And yeah, they were starting to affect me in ways that I was like, oh, this is really bothering my mental health. Because there's some stories that are just so terrible. And I just want to reach in through the phone and like, shake these men, or it's usually men than the groups I'm in. I think the majority might be men, and it just makes me sad. And so I was like, oh no, this is affecting my mental health. And I just couldn't do it all the time. So I had to limit where I was putting my energy and try and figure out, where am I going to expend my energy to help others? How can I help others? I don't have to do it this way, right? We can do it a different way. And so that's what I was trying to do for sure. So it's that awareness, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting. I want to bring up this concept because since we're on the subject, we have a concept called a heart wall. And what happens with a lot of trauma is that we get trapped emotions can get trapped around our hearts and impede us from fulfilling our passions in life.
Okay.
Or being passionate about another person. And this is something that can get released, but it is a concept that I think a lot of people don't know about that happens with repetitive trauma. So like, how people's capacity for joy gets shut down by repeated trauma, right?
Yes.
So releasing this heart wall is part of that, but also releasing beliefs and releasing feelings of hopelessness and so forth. So there's a lot that needs to get released, but this heart wall is a barrier to passion, and people with a lot of trauma can have very, very thick heart walls.
Right.
I had a lot.
Well, and it makes sense, right? You're going into self-preservation mode to try and protect yourself, right?
It is a protective response. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean, so much of what we do, if we don't defend ourselves, was originally a protective response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So when people come to you, they're ready to usually start doing the work? Or, okay. And then, so right before that, what kind of stories are people telling you that this happened and then I knew I was ready to make a change? Or when I'm building awareness on this kind of stuff, people say like, how do I know when I'm ready to leave, or when I'm ready to whatever, when I'm feeling better? I'm like, it's so hard to explain, right? But what are some things that help people in their awareness before they come to you, or while they're coming to you saying, I need to make this change somehow?
Yeah. So what's in their awareness? Well, it's interesting because there are a lot of people that are reaching out to healers and so forth, but aren't ready to make that change, right?
Okay.
That I think is probably more common than not.
Oh, okay.
Recently met a woman that was just in a huge amount of panic. And when I made suggestions, or I have a great resource of now that I'm sending people to of a coach who is actually a divorce coach who helps people get out of marriages safely. So that part is super important, is having like a safe plan and a way of, knowing how to separate safely. Right.
Right.
But she didn't want to talk to him or her. Yeah. She didn't want to talk to her. And so there's a lot of there's this concept of alignment, there's an alignment issue. Okay. Right. And it's interesting because we aren't always, I can look at, ask somebody's subconscious and figure out how aligned they are with health, or in alignment with safety, or in alignment with love, whatever it is. So like if they're not in alignment with what's best for them, we can work on that if they're interested in moving forward.
Okay.
But some people aren't even, and I can't speak to what that final thing is that makes them move forward. But it may be, for me, it was that knowledge of housing instability that, this is going to tear me apart. And I've had a narcissist. I mean, like, I grew up with them, and then I had a narcissist that destroyed my career. And so I knew, I think it was just like that final understanding that what narcissists can do. I think when people are in those relationships also, they get very tied to that initial impression.
Yeah.
The impression that, and then also they're, it's a good thing that we have a lot more awareness about narcissism than we used to, but they have a hard time letting go of also the perception of how other people see this narcissist.
Yes.
Because that's a perception that they choose to share with other people.
Right.
But it's not their whole being. And I think a lot of people have a hard time accepting that the narcissist that they're dealing with is, they have the privilege of seeing the full package, and it's not just the initial impression that matters. And I think that's the thing, is that we often get too tied to our initial impressions. I mean, that's the way our brains work, and we categorize people into these buckets.
Yeah.
We have to realize that relationships take time. It takes time to develop trust, and we cannot necessarily trust that initial impression. And, most people are more consistent, but narcissists are not, right? And that's the thing. That's another thing that just like makes people go, what the hell just happened? Because this person is, same thing with borderline. People with borderline are really sweet and really affectionate and so forth. And then boom, they can flip and be these angeraholics, and you just never know when that's going to happen. And so I think we have to just kind of recognize that there are people in what we call the sociopathic personality type that are very unstable, and we cannot trust everybody. And we have to be able to let go first impressions and realize that the person you met is not a full representation of who they really are.
Nobody is, right? I mean, that's the thing, is it's almost that honeymoon period. Every friend you meet, everything, it's just, that's not the only personality or whatever. And that to me was the hardest. I lived off those breadcrumbs of there would be 5 days of bad, but there'd be a couple of days of good. And so it's getting back to that, those breadcrumbs, getting back to that good impression, that good time. And the other thing I had to really learn how to do is be okay with the fact that what he was saying about me, and also how he was behaving in public, especially after we were divorced, that he's telling people whatever, but that everybody loves him. But I know the truth, how he is behind closed doors. That to me took a lot of self-love and that work on myself to really be like, I'm okay with whatever's being said. I'm okay with, but that, oh my gosh, that took a lot of years of work to be able to be like, okay in my own skin, and that whatever he's doing, what can I do? There's nothing I can do. I tell my side of the story, whatever, you know what I mean? And on a podcast and all this stuff and warn others, but people say, but he's such a nice guy. Yes. That's why I titled my book, Married to a Nice Guy, because they fool so many people. They don't get to see, everybody doesn't get to see that piece of shit guy. You know what I mean? Not everybody gets to see that. They only see that.
Yeah. And I just want to underline that point, because narcissists are often, like how we typically think of sociopaths as these ugly people that are evil on TV, right?
Right.
And narcissists are often very charming.
Yes.
They can be very handsome or beautiful, and they can often be leaders.
Yeah.
Like of churches.
Yes, for sure.
That's a common one.
Yeah.
They are often in high positions.
Yeah. Like politicians.
They can be bosses. They know how to manipulate things so that they get elected and so forth.
Yeah.
Hitler was a malignant narcissist, for example. They know how to get elected. They know how to manipulate our mindsets to create fans. And they also know how to create sides and divide people, right?
Yeah.
And I think that we have to realize I think that's a big part of the complexity, is that and here's the difference, is that yes, we are all not exactly our first impression. We all do have a better side when we first meet somebody, usually, and then after getting to know them, there may be some quirks that we don't like. But the extremes are not there with normal people, right? Most people, there's some variation that may look like this, right? With narcissists and borderline personality, the variation is night and day. It's like a 180. It's a complete different person that you're seeing. And so that's where the shock comes in, is you're like, how could this one person be so nice and yet show up and say something so horrific or do something so horrific?
Right.
And then you spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to match those two, right? And being confused about it. And that's why the more we talk about and educate people about narcissistic personality disorder and sociopathic personality disorders, the less fighting they're going to have to do in their head. And the more they're going to realize that, oh, this is just a part of the society. Unfortunately, in our culture, unfortunately, breeds narcissism to some degree. Like, I think that there are cultures that, like the Japanese, actually, like in the kids, for example, in Asian cultures, we never hear about a Japanese or Chinese inventor, or a proverb. It's a Chinese proverb, but we rarely ever hear about who wrote it. Sometimes it's Lao Tzu, but it's usually a Chinese proverb or an invention. Who invented paper? The Chinese.
Okay.
Like it's not a person, right? In the United States, it's always a person. And the concept is the Australians have the tallest poppy syndrome, right? You don't want to stick out, right? I'm not saying that's good or bad, but the problem is that we do too much hero worshiping in the United States. And when we think about it, people who invented stuff, we don't think about everybody else who allowed that to happen.
Yeah.
Right. And so we need to understand about how our society is structured and how that encourages more narcissism. If we keep celebrating the individual without talking about the importance of the group and working together, then we fail when a pandemic hits.
Right.
It's why Asian countries did so much better than we did.
Right.
Is because it's in their culture all the way through childhood. In Japan, it's a heavy part of their curriculum to learn to get along with others.
Yeah. And
to be kind to others on buses and so forth. They go through exercises to teach kids how to be kind to others. It's just like, why don't we do that? It's just so wonderful.
Right.
So our culture really makes a difference in this. And we could breed this. I don't know if we can completely breed it out. I think there's brain damage involved, but there's an interaction between culture and narcissism for sure. And if narcissism wasn't celebrated, which it is in the United States, then they would have to be a lot more careful, right? And and they wouldn't be as attractive either, because we wouldn't celebrate it that much.
Are you feeling trapped in a relationship that leaves you questioning your worth and sanity? Have you noticed the red flags and decided you can't live one more day in a toxic environment? Whether you've just left or are considering leaving a narcissistic partner, the book, Married to a Nice Guy, Getting Over Narcissistic Abuse, is here to guide and support you. In this candid memoir, I share my 33-year struggle in a marriage to a nice guy that was marked by emotional manipulation and abuse, revealing how I broke free and reclaimed my life. If you've been waiting for a sign, this book is it. If you've ever felt isolated, confused, or hopeless in your relationship, Married to a Nice Guy, Getting Over Narcissistic Abuse offers the understanding and guidance you need to break free and start your journey to healing. You are not alone, and you deserve a life filled with love, respect, and happiness. Order your copy today and take the first step towards reclaiming your life. Yeah, and I think you're right about that. And I've had a lot of people asking me, how do you not raise a narcissist? And I know that there's that emotional neglect. There could be traumas that happened. And I know there's other things, but just thinking about that whole participation trophy kind of culture, everyone gets that, rather than what I've heard Dr. Caroline Leaf talking about is praising the effort, praising that you did teamwork, those kinds of things. And I'm seeing some great stories out of the Olympics and of people, other Olympians praising the one who won the gold. And it's like, there's enough for all of us in this world. But yes, that worshiping almost of your child, that your child got first place, straight A's, all those things. And I think, yeah, but what about those other kids? They don't, they're allowed. Your other kids can do other things, and actually just praising them as a human rather than a competitive way. And also rather than praising the effort, not the outcome.
Not the outcome. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I saw about that.
Yeah. I think that's a definitely important piece of it. And also just, it's like, we need to also speak to the power of community.
Yes.
And how much more effective our world will be, and how much more. This is what I did not get in childhood. My parents were pushed very, very hard to work, and did not celebrate friendships or even advocate. My dad was always like, I don't believe in having too much fun. Very Asian mindset. And it really it's made it very hard for me. And I had to learn a lot as an adult about how to get along with others.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think that the more socially, like the people who are most successful are the most socially capable, the people who really know how to get along with others and make everybody shine, right? Help each other and so forth. Like that collectivism just makes the world a better place, but it also makes you more successful. And I think a lot of people don't really realize, our culture doesn't really understand that, even though at least we don't talk about that, right? But the mental health benefits also of having community are huge. So yeah, and we have an epidemic of loneliness in the United States.
Yeah.
And I think that our narcissistic culture is a part of that too, and breeds it, that competitiveness, this dog-eat-dog world that we have.
Yeah. Yeah, that being the best. If you're not the best, then why even talk about it? Those kinds of things, where it really breaks my heart to see some of my beautiful friends who will not look in a mirror, take a picture, acknowledge their accomplishments because they weren't the best. And I've been saying that for a lot of years in different social situations I'm in. I'm like, but that person was the best in whatever they did. But we're allowed to talk about, I'm allowed to say that I never done this in my life and I came in second place or whatever it is. That isn't talked about, that isn't celebrated. And I think it's really hard. It's that whole effort. That's the way I tried to raise my kids. So far, so good. They're doing good. So there's only so much you can do, but it's true.
I think it would be really great if we just celebrated our own personal best. The person I spend too much time on social media because every time I post, I need to wake up the algorithm, and I don't like social media because of it. But it just it encourages comparisonitis. It's like a huge problem. And so if we can just celebrate our own achievements, because we really can't compare ourselves to everybody else. Nobody else has my history. Nobody else is dealing with the same problems I'm dealing with. And same thing for them. I'm not dealing with the problems they're dealing with. So we really can't compare. And then we spend so much time celebrating people who have achieved. Well, maybe they had everything they needed growing up. They probably did. Most of them did, right? Or maybe, somebody who's achieved something from what appears to be nothing had way more than we actually realized. And we don't know what that is, but somehow they had the right brain or the right physical features or something that really worked in their favor. So we act like hard work is everything, and it's not. Luck has a lot to do with it. Connections have a lot to do with it. Yeah. And who knows what else? Biology.
I like that idea of, celebrating your personal best, because I think that's so important. That makes me happy to think about where I was and now where I am. And it's like, that's okay. I don't have to be president of the United States to go, hey, I achieved something. It's like, no, I don't have to. That doesn't mean that's my personal best. So when somebody wanted to come and work with you, tell me what kinds of things that they would be asking themselves, or where they would be in their life before they decide to make the call to you.
Well, if someone is either in a relationship that they're not happy with, maybe there's too much fighting, or they're just not being the person that they want to be, maybe they're getting agitated too much or traumatized, then, or maybe they don't feel good about themselves. Like they just would really like to love themselves more. Those are the people that would be a good work fit for me. If they are in a difficult relationship and they don't know whether they should get out of it or not, I certainly can talk to them about that. But I have a colleague, that my divorce coach colleague, that I would like to refer them to because she has a really good assessment for that.
That's great.
But yeah, it's really people who are feeling like, I'm ready to move on. I deserve better, and are willing to, if they're also like, they recognize the fact that they're not in alignment with doing what's best for them, I can get you in alignment. If you're ready to get in alignment with what's safest for you and what's healthiest for you, then let's talk.
I love that. And we could talk for a million more hours, but we're out of time for today. And I just want to thank you for talking to us about all this stuff. It's so fascinating to me because I've done so much work on my mind. It's been really fascinating to really heal and to know who I am. And I know that people working with you, that they will benefit from that, because just because we've been doing it one way all our life, right, doesn't mean that's the way we should continue doing it, especially if we're walking around unhappy. And I'm glad that you help others and you have such an interesting approach to helping others, and you have experience. So you do.
Yeah, I mean, I like to tell people, don't try hard, try easy. Like if they want an easy way to address this, releasing subconscious barriers is the easiest, and it's just an easy and fast way to get to where you want to go. It's pretty amazing about how quickly things can work.
Yes.
So
I love that. That's so good. So where can everybody find you if they want to work with you? And we'll also put everything in the show notes.
Yeah, sure. So I'm at tryholisticbrainhelp.com, TRY.
Okay.
Tryholisticbrainhelp.com. And I do have a free gift.
Oh,
if you do /grounded and safe, then if you need 5 powerful strategies to help you quickly get grounded, I offer that in that link. Also, it'd be good to stay in touch with me because I do offer a talk that I will be giving maybe in the next couple of months. And it's called It's Time to Get Your Power Back, How to End the Cycle of Traumatic Relationships and Move Beyond Surviving to Thriving.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I have a 7-step program to help people get out of toxic relationships called UPLIFTS.
Well, that's perfect. And we're going to put all that in the show notes because there's so many good resources that you have for everybody. And so, Dr. Tina, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate that. If anything resonated with you guys today, will you please go to Apple and Spotify and leave a review and let Podcast Land know that you love us. And of course, go down into the show notes and check out all of Dr. Tina's links because she has some free stuff for you today. And go over to social media and, of course, comment on everything and tell us you love us and all those things so the algorithm sees us. And then all this information can go out into the world. Dr. Tina, thanks so much for being here today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Laura, for having me. It was such a joy talking to you.
I'm so glad you were here. And guys, don't forget, your voice matters. Go out and live that life that you've always wanted to live. Talk to you guys soon. Thank you for joining me today on the That's Where I'm At podcast. Did the story today resonate with you? Do you think others would benefit from hearing the stories we are telling? Please go to Apple or Spotify right now to leave a review so everyone in podcast land will know you love the show. We want to continue sharing stories of hope and healing. I'll be back next time. I'll talk to you then.